Hi, today I'm going to be reading a section of the book The Giver by Lois Lowry. And throughout the book, you read the word release, and it's not towards the end of the book that Jonas learns what the word means. So I'm going to go ahead and read a section of a chapter. The giver rose from his chair. He went to the speaker on the wall and clicked the switch from off to on. The voice spoke immediately. Yes, receiver? How may I help you? I would like to see this morning release of the twins. One moment, receiver. Thank you for your instructions. Jonas watched the video screen above the row of switches. Its blank face began to flicker with zigzag lines. Then some numbers appeared, followed by date and time. He was astonished and delighted that this was available to him, and surprised that he had not known. Suddenly, he could see a small windowless room, empty except for a bed, a table with some equipment on it. Jonas recognized the scale. He had seen them before when he'd been doing volunteer hours in the nurturing center. And a cupboard. He could see pale carpeting on the floor. It's just an ordinary room, he commented. I thought maybe they'll have it in the auditorium so that everyone could come. All the old go to the ceremonies of release, but I suppose when you're a newborn, they don't. Shh, the giver said, his eyes on the screen. Jonas' father, wearing his nurturing uniform, entered the room, cradling a tiny new child wrapped in a soft blanket in his arm. A uniformed woman followed through the door, carrying a second new child wrapped in a similar blanket. That's my father, Jonas found himself whispering, as he might wake the little ones he spoke aloud. And the other nurturer is his assistant. She's still in training, but she'll be finished soon. The two nurturers unwrapped the blankets and laid the identical newborns on the bed. They were naked. Jonas could see they were males. He watched, fascinated, as his father gently lifted one and then the other to the scale and weighed them. He heard his father laugh. Good, his father said to the woman. I thought for a moment that they might both be exactly the same. Then we'll have a problem. But this one, he handed one, after wrapping it, to his assistant, is 6 pounds even. You can clean him up, dress them, and take him over to the center. The woman took the new child and left through the door she had entered. Jonas watched as his father bent over the squirming new child on the bed. And you, little guy, you're 5 pounds, 10 ounces, a shrimp. That's the special voice he used with Gabriel, Jonas remarked, smiling. Watch, the giver said. Now he cleans him up and makes him comfy, Jonas told him. He told me. Be quiet, Jonas, the giver commanded in a strange voice. Watch. Obediently, Jonas concentrated on the screen, waiting for what would happen next. He was especially curious about the ceremony part. His father turned and opened the cupboard. He took out a syringe and a small bottle. Very carefully, he entered the needle into the bottle and began to fill the syringe with the clear liquid. Jonas winced sympathetically. He had forgotten the new children had to get shots. He hated shots himself, though he knew they were necessary. To his surprise, his father began very carefully directing the needle on top of the new child's forehead, puncturing the place where the fragile skin pulsed. The newborn squirmed and wailed faintly. Why's he? Shh, the giver said sharply. His father was talking, and Jonas realized that he was hearing the answer to the question he had started to ask. Still in a special voice, his father said, I know, it hurts, little guy, but I have to use a vein, and the vein in your arms are still too tiny weeny. He plushed the plunger very slowly, injecting the liquid into the scalp vein until the syringe was empty. All done. That wasn't so bad, was it? Jonas heard his father say cheerfully. He turned aside and dropped the syringe into the waste receptacle. Now he cleans him up and makes him comfy, Jonas said to himself, aware that the giver didn't want to talk during their little ceremony. As he continued to watch, the new child no longer cried, moved his arms and legs in a jerking motion. Then he went limp. His head fell to the side, his eyes half open. Then he was still. With an odd, shocked feeling, Jonas recognized the gesture and posture and expression. They were familiar. He had seen them before, but he couldn't remember where. Jonas stared at the screen, waited for something to happen, but nothing did. The little twin laid motionless. His father was putting his things away, folding the blanket, closing the cupboard. Once again, as he had on the playfield, he felt the choking sensation. Once again, he saw the face of the light-haired, bloodied soldier as life left his eyes. The memory came back. He killed it. My father killed it, Jonas said to himself, stunned at what he was realizing. He continued to stare at the screen numbly. His father tidied the room. Then he picked up a small carton that lay waiting on the floor, set it on the bed, lifted the limp body into it. He placed the lid on tightly. He picked up the carton and carried it to the other side of the room. He opened a small door in the wall. Jonas could see darkness behind the door. It seemed to be the same sort of chute into which trash was deposited at school. His father loaded the carton containing the body into the chute and gave it a shove. Bye-bye, little guy, Jonas heard his father say before he left the room. Then the screen went black. The giver turned to him. Quite calmly, he related, when the speaker notified me that Rosemary had applied for release, they turned to the tape to show me the process. There she was, my last glimpse at a beautiful child waiting. They brought in the syringe and asked her to roll up her sleeve. You suggested, Jonas, that perhaps she wasn't brave enough. I don't know about bravery, what it is, what it means. I know that I sat here numbed with horror, wretched with helplessness, and I listened as Rosemary told them that she would prefer to inject herself. Then she did so. I didn't watch. I looked away. The giver turned to him. Well, there you go, Jonas. You were wondering about release, he said in a bitter voice. Jonas felt a rib sensation inside him, the feeling of terrible pain clawing its way forward to emerge in a cry. That was the section of The Giver by Lois Lowry. Thank you.